Hello and welcome back to Central Cell Online. My name is Charlie.
And I'm Nick, and welcome back to our house, our kitchen, at our kitchen table. Sorry if that was really loud. Welcome to you guys if you're streaming in with us this evening. We're always pleased to say we're being joined by youth groups from across Aylesbury town.
Yes, hello to you guys who are streaming in. You are more than welcome. If you're not with your youth group right now on Zoom, you really can be, and we'd love to invite you to get involved.
Yeah, as always, check the description, find links to register at Aylesbury Vale Youth for Christ. You won't regret it because they'll hook you up with a lovely youth group that you can hang out with every week, even if you've never been to church before. That is not a requirement, is it?
No.
Yeah.
The plan for Central Cell Online is to guide you through some stuff in the Bible, and sometimes alongside that discussing topical themes, a bit like this current relationship series. We've reached our 5th and final week of this relationship series. The last week we looked at fire, which was all about intimacy and sex, and this week our theme is forever.
Yeah, so the plan for the evening, there will be 2 sections. In each section there'll be a short talk from our friend James Yielder, and we'll then hear some thoughts from some of you guys, the young people across the town, and of course we'll give you that chance to discuss it in your youth groups as well.
Then we'll end our time together with a chance to think through what we may want to do differently in life, and a chance to pray together in your groups.
Spot on. We're going to begin with our icebreaker question, which is what we always begin with. So over to you.
The song I'd probably choose for my first dance, if I was getting married, would be Better Together by Jack Johnson.
Right, so my initial thought was Careless Whisper.
So me and my husband got married a few years ago, and we decided to have a song from a musical that we'd been to see together on one of our earlier dates.
So it's like, I don't know, it reminds me of my childhood, and like, it's quite nice when I hear it, like, reminds me of happy memories, so it'd be quite good to have that happy memory of the past being like a good happy memory of a marriage, I guess, if that makes sense.
But I think I'll save that for the end, because you want something a bit more lively and a bit more full of energy for the first song.
So it was from the musical Wicked.
Because when I was younger, I used to watch a program called Curious George, and one of his that song, I think it was that song, or like a song that sounded a lot like it by him, was like the main theme to that TV show.
And it's a song called As Long As You're Mine.
So maybe Cotton Eye Joe.
Oh my goodness. We need to tell them about our first dance at our wedding.
At our wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
You tell it.
well, it kind of turned out to be a bit of fun in the end, but we did not plan a first dance because we didn't want to do one.
We really did not want to do one.
And we naively thought that we would get away with that, but obviously that did not turn out to be the case. And as the band started playing, we were outside talking to some guests, and everyone on the dance floor started shouting us in, basically. And my mum came out. She was like, "What are you doing? Come on, come inside." She dragged us in to the dance. We basically couldn't get away with it. Everyone was like eyes on us,
It's expectancy.
bringing us into the room.
Yeah.
And so we didn't have a song planned either. And everyone just wanted us to start dancing. But then the band started playing, and what did they play? They played an upbeat song. It wasn't a slow dance. It was
Got
like
the
some,
dad
like,
dancing on.
Yeah, and what did they play? It was James.
Ow! I feel good. Da, 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 da. I did I would now.
So then we had to dance, our first dance to this song, which was fine, and it was fun in the end. But
Yeah, I much preferred that than the kind of, you know,
Slow,
the
awkward
usual
dance.
canoodling, like everybody's watching you, just like
yeah, I can't really cope with that.
gaze into each other's eyes.
And we did actually get some really good photos from it, so that was the plus.
Yeah, it was good. Anyway, enough of that. James Yielder is joining us tonight. He is one of the youth workers at Broughton Church. Hello again, Broughton, because obviously Lydia from Broughton shared with us last week, his lovely wife.
Yeah, and before we hear from James, we're just going to quickly read 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 to 7, which says, "Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance." Over to you, James.
It's quite probable that if you've been to many weddings, you will have heard those words read out by Charlie and Nick. They're one of the most popular Bible readings a couple may choose, and we can see why. It paints a glorious picture of what love looks like, with it being one that lasts through everything too. That's super romantic, happily ever after, if you will. But from my experience as a husband, and from others I know who are married or in serious relationships, love is not the removal of these negative emotions. Loving someone does not remove feelings of jealousy. Loving someone does not mean you cannot be irritated by them. Those emotions are still very, very much present. But loving someone means choosing to act and express yourself in ways of patience and kindness over jealousy and irritability. It means putting them first above yourself, prioritizing how you make them feel and build them up rather than making yourself look good. And this passage from Corinthians even encourages us that we will not always get that right either. It tells us that love never gives up. This is not saying that once you're in love with someone, then you are stuck with them forever, no matter what they do or are like. For example, elsewhere in the Bible, we can read about reasons for getting divorced. This isn't blind loyalty. This is saying that love is a big commitment that requires work and effort, rather than just a warm, mushy feeling. It is not something that will end the first time someone bites their nails or picks their nose. Love is about striving to continually improve and be a better husband, wife, friend for another. You may be sat there now thinking about marriage, or you may actively be thinking about a life of singleness and wondering, how is this relevant to you? Well, the crazy thing is that these words from 1 Corinthians are talking about a love between members of a church community rather than specifically in a romantic relationship. This is how, as members of God's church, we should relate to each other. This should be what we aim for with each other. But it also does provide a very helpful and useful framework for us when we think about a significant other.
Great stuff. Thank you so much, James. We're going to hear some more from James again later, but we're now going to hear from some of you guys about what you think, and then we will have the chance to discuss that more in our groups.
Yeah, we designed the questions so the first one is relatively straightforward, the second one more difficult, as you know, and the third one is more difficult again. And the reason why we do this is just to challenge you guys to think as deeply as you can and wrestle with some of these thoughts and questions.
If you're watching this live right now and you get into a really good discussion and time is ticking away, please just feel free to pause the video and go with what you're talking about. You're welcome to keep up with us, but you don't have to.
Yeah, and of course you don't have to worry about answering all the questions. Don't worry about doing all three. If you don't want to, you might just want to do one. You might only get as far as one, and that's okay too. Your youth leader will just sort out which ones they think are most important and just cater it along as the evening goes along.
Yes, and with all that being said, here are some thoughts from some of you guys, followed by some questions for you to think about in your groups.
That's a good question.
Yeah, I can't really think of one.
I think the pettiest thing that I've ever fallen out with someone with is I was walking in the woods with my friend.
I have got one, but it's not petty. It was definitely worth falling. I say falling out. It wasn't really a falling out. It was just me being sad.
A woods that's near my house, and we were walking down the path, and the path split into two ways, and I knew the woods, so I knew which way it was. I knew it was like, I don't know, left, and he told me that he knew that it was right.
I think me and one of my closest friends once had a really long argument about the different types of milk in coffee and how they're made.
But I knew it was left, so I told him, right, if you think it's the right, you go that way, and I'll go this way, and we'll see who gets to my house first.
When I was in year 3, this year 6, he convinced me that if I gave him my limited edition, like top of the range Moshi Monster, in exchange for two of his ones, which are the sort of normal ones, he convinced me that would be a good deal, and I fell for it.
So he goes that way, and I go the right way, and when I finally get to my house, I wait there for like a solid minute or two, and he's not there. So I come back to the woods, I just walk back over to where I last saw him, and I saw him sat on a little tree stump with his head in his hands, and he was like, we were in like year 4 or something like that, so he was crying, thinking that he was lost, and I walked up to him and I was like, told you so, and then he didn't speak to me for about a week.
So I went away, I researched the value and the worth, and I was mortified. I'd been taken advantage of. I resented him for years. I still have trouble forgiving him sometimes. So yeah, this is just a case of me sort of trying to unload a lot of emotion.
So that was pretty petty.
Hello, welcome back. So, a life of singleness or a life of marriage, what is more appealing? I don't know. I think people often want what they haven't got, don't they?
Yeah, that's true.
But what I do know is that both are hard and both have their challenges. No offence. But they are hard. Both
Ditto.
are hard. Marriage has its hard points, singleness has its hard points, but they're just hard in different ways.
Yeah.
And often things are just for a season, aren't they? I had a period in my life where I was single, and now I'm married. All I know is that you need to pursue God with everything you have in either circumstance.
And in every circumstance.
In every circumstance.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. And I think marriage is put on a bit of a pedestal, dare I say. Like, I think it's kind of portrayed as this thing that if you've achieved that, you've like won at life, which obviously isn't true. I don't know if that's a wider society thing or just in the church, but I think certainly within the church, it's a seen thing. And yeah, I think we're all guilty of that in some way. But obviously, yeah, it's not true. Neither is better.
No.
But it's a sensitive issue. Some people really, really want marriage for their lives,
and some people are trapped in marriages that are really hard, and they don't know how to, like cope with it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's easy to look with anything at someone else's life, compare your life to theirs, and want what they've got or whatever. So it's looking through things with rose-tinted spectacle. Is that the phrase? But anyway, so a tricky one. We're going to read the next Bible verse, which is Ephesians chapter 5, verse 21 to 33. We actually had this as part of our Ephesians series a few months ago. But yes, this really ties into what James is saying. So Ephesians 5, verse 21 to 33 says, Spirit-guided relationships, wives and husbands. And further, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. For wives, this means submit to your husbands as to the Lord. For a husband is the head of his wife, as Christ is the head of the church. He is the Saviour of his body, the church. As the church submits to Christ, so you wives should submit to your husbands in everything. For husbands, this means love your wives just as Christ loved the church. He gave up his life for her to make her holy and clean, washed by the cleansing of God's word. He did this to present her to himself as a glorious church without a spot or wrinkle or any other blemish. Instead, she will be holy and without fault. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as they love their own bodies. For a man who loves his wife actually shows love for himself. No one hates his own body, but feeds and cares for it, just as Christ cares for the church, and we are members of his body. As the scriptures say, a man leaves his father and mother and is joined to his wife, and the two are united into one. This is a great mystery, but it is an illustration of the way Christ and the church are one. So again I say, each man must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. Back to James.
Our relationships are expected to mirror the love that Christ showed the church, being that Christ was so willing to serve his church that he was willing to die for it. The significance, the importance, the value of the other, the love for the other was so great for Jesus that he was obedient to the point of death, and death on the cross for them. That is how our mindset should be towards each other in a marital relationship. It is not about elevating oneself. It is about lowering yourself to elevate your loved one. It is about doing everything you can to see them thrive in their relationship with God and all that it entails. It is remembering that your loved one was and is God's before they were anything to you. Being married is about knowing that we will get it wrong and our form of love is distorted and incomplete. We will be jealous at times. We will get irritated. We will let things corrupt that love, even if only momentarily. But it is also about knowing that God is love. God's love is incomparable to our love. It is pure. It is complete. It is perfect and good, and there is no corruption to it at all. Marriage as Christians is about encouraging, challenging, supporting your partner to experience and bask in the glory that comes from God's love. If the basis of relationships were more about elevating the other, being their champion, and a whole lot more about Jesus, rather than our own selfish wants, our own desires, our own pleasures, or that quick hit of physical intimacy, then think of the difference that could make to the way people value themselves, the way people think others see them, the way that we as Christians can stand out and be distinctive. The book of John tells us that it is by how we love others that everyone will know we are Jesus' disciples. Lowering our self-interest and elevating theirs is one component of this. A couple of years ago, I was chatting to a church leader who was mentoring me at the time, and we were talking about relationships, and he asked me a deeply profound question. He asked, when your previous relationships have ended, is the person you were dating in a better or worse place than when you started doing so? This was not a question directed to big up my ego and be like, of course, any woman who has dated me is better off having done so. No, instead, it was a challenge of, was my focus in the relationship on myself and my own desires, my own needs, or on elevating them and supporting them and helping them be themselves and flourish? It is not about us coaching or teaching them what to do, but about us encouraging and helping them in their own journey, in their own life. And as Christians, we believe that this is through growing and developing your relationship with God and living with the Holy Spirit as your everyday guide. This is not to say that there won't be any pain or sadness at the end of a relationship, but it is saying that such is your perspective on what it means to love another, like how Christ demonstrated his love to us, that they have grown, that they have thrived, that they have flourished as an individual during your time as a couple, and therefore they are better off than when you began. If this is not the case, then I encourage you to ask yourself, why not? Love and marriage is designed to be permanent, but sometimes some things happen and mean that forever is not a reality. This can be for a whole range of different reasons. You can set out with every right intention, every right mindset, and do every right thing, but that doesn't guarantee the happily ever after story. Death, people, and a whole host of other things can get in the way, and that is a very sad reality to relationships. This has been true for all of history, as well as today. And unfortunately, it is one that will be true always until Jesus comes again and everything is restored to how God intended it to be. Until then, we can do our part. We can and should control how we are going to live and what love looks like to us. It does not guarantee the happily ever after, but mirroring the sacrificial love of Christ to others, to those that we are dating, to those that we are married to, or anyone else, builds up rather than destroys. It is selfless rather than selfish, and it is freeing rather than controlling. And doesn't that sound far more like what love is designed to look like to you?
I think one of the ways you can tell that you know you love someone is when you can really trust them.
I think you know when you love someone, like in a friendship or whatever, when you can be like your proper self and not be embarrassed about doing whatever you want around them.
And you know that you can be yourself around them and you won't feel judged.
I think the way that you can tell that you love someone is really simple. Just think, do I really care about them? Do I really care about their well-being? And if that's the case, then I think it means you love them.
With that, and like know that they're not going to judge you, and that like you can show them the true you without them thinking you're like some strange person. You can say what you want to say around them and feel comfortable with
You know, not a case of I'll scratch their back, they'll scratch mine. Not a type of relationship like romantically or a friendship that you're only in it so that you get something out of it.
But also when you just want to spend time with somebody, when you enjoy their company, when you just love talking to them, those are usually good indicators that, you know, you love them, whether romantically or as a friend.
I think you just have a deep care for that person, for their well-being. You want them to be the best they can be, best possible person they can be. You want them to be as whole as they can be, you know? So yeah, when you really care for someone.
Welcome back, guys. There were some great questions there. I hope you had a good time discussing those.
Yeah, so now we're moving into our second to last bit, and this is where you've got a little bit of time in your groups to think of one thing in this week that you might take up, give up, or change up in response to some of the stuff you've been thinking about in your groups.
The reason we do this is so that after reading our Bibles together and thinking through these themes, reflecting on those things can be a really helpful way to get the most out of the session. It's only for about 4 minutes or so, but if there is anything you want to think about in a different way or respond to, then this is your time to do it. Hi guys, I hope you found that useful. So the last thing we do is always finish with a chance to pray together in your groups. This is something we do every Central Cell, but if you don't normally pray, don't worry too much. Your youth leader will guide you through the whole thing. But if you'd like to try praying, then please do.
Yeah, we'd love that. We've given 10 minutes for this slot. We want to give you ample time to pray and share with each other. 10 minutes sounds like a long time, but it does go really quickly. Of course, please don't feel like you have to stop if the time runs out. Just ignore us. We want you to use all of that time and more if you need to. But let's spend the next little bit of time praying, and we'll see you in about 10 minutes. So that's the end of our session this evening and of the series.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us. We've really enjoyed it. We hope you have too. Thank you so much to James and to all the other speakers who shared over the last several weeks. And of course, to you guys out there for answering the questions in the videos.
Next week we won't be here, but a social is scheduled for you to have with your individual youth groups. We will keep you updated with news about when the next series will begin and whether that will be in person or continued online. We will also, wait for it, be able to introduce you to the new Aylesbury Youth for Christ director, which is very, very, very exciting. So watch this space for what's coming next.
Thank you so much for letting us be your host this series and for journeying with us. We hope it's been really helpful for you. We want to encourage you to keep talking to your youth leader if anything has stuck out for you, or you want to carry on discussions that you started in these past few weeks. But we cannot wait to see you all in person, whenever that may be. We can't wait.
Yeah, and for now, God bless you guys, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.